How can you tell if there's a drummer at the door? Because the knocking speeds up and they still don't know when to come in. Big up the drummers.
Chatting Tracks. Let's talk music.
Hi, it's Robbie's Chatting Tracks. Let's talk music indeed. Welcome to my little channel talking about music. Now, I say little channel, it turns out 70% of the people that watch this channel don't subscribe to it. Or if they're new time subscribers, they don't. If you could do that, that massively help me out because I've had some amazing guests on here. But if I get more of a subscriber count, I'll get bigger guests. I could do more things for you. So help me out and subscribe. Come on, you know you want to. Give it that cheeky button a little like. Anyway, so I've got this website called chattingtracks.com and I never use it. For some reason, I never use it. It's been sitting there for ages and I've got all sorts of bits and bobs on there. I've got the episodes on there. The podcast is on there. I've got stuff that like bands have given me that's never been released on there and all sorts of stuff. So I thought I'm going to start writing some articles. So I've done the 5 greatest rock drummers of all time and why I think they changed music. So I thought, I'm going to start, there's articles on there as well. So I thought I'll start writing and put the bits on there as well. So I'll have links in the description to this at the bottom as well. So you can find the website as well. And there'll be other bits and bobs on there. It just means I can do articles and all sorts of stuff. And it just makes it a bit more interesting for yourself. So let's look at some of the 5 greatest drummers, in my opinion, that have changed music. So lots of drummers from the 60s credit Buddy Rich for being one of the greatest drummers of all time. I like Gene Krupa as well. I thought Gene Krupa was very, very good, but he seems to get second all the time. Buddy Rich is great, but I think Gene Krupa should be on there. He's absolutely amazing as well. So obviously the first one I've got is John Bonham, because I think John Bonham is just one of the greatest drummers that have ever lived. Watching that Becoming Zeppelin thing again recently was just a revelation about what a great player he was. I used to play in a band and I was absolutely terrible. I played with more heart than technique and skill, and I just had to play Bonham stuff and I could never get it right. He's just such a master at what he does. He's brilliant, and the drum sounds that he had were incredible, and I just loved everything he did. I could never get the double bass drum technique he used to do with his foot, like that. I could never do that. But I talked about the kits in there a little bit. I said he's got different size bass drums and stuff like that, and I'm not going to go through the whole article because you might want to read it, so I'm not going to do everything on it. But he used an early Ludwig kit pre-Zeppelin, then he used a maple kit through Led Zeppelin 3 to Physical Graffiti, then he used a plexiglass one for Songs Remains the Same, the orange one, and then he used a stainless steel in the final years of the kit. I wonder if you got that from Emerson, Lake and Palmer, because Carl Palmer used to play a solid steel one. It used to weigh a ton, didn't it? I talked a bit there about his amazing solos like Moby Dick, where he's playing with his hands, because he liked to play with his hands. He says in Becoming Zeppelin because it brings you closer to the drums, you can feel it. And he could play for half an hour and all that sort of stuff, and I don't know how he did it because it would just absolutely kill your hands. And he was just such an amazing player and influential and powerful, and and they used to say when he used to attempt with bands, they'd sit in and they wouldn't want him there because he just smashed their kits to pieces, not because he was rude and arrogant, because he just hit them so hard and he knew how to play. He knew how to really, really do it. Brilliant player, so he had to be number 1 on there for me as well. So like I put on there, Jimi Hendrix says his feet were like castanets, where they could just like all that sort of stuff. Playing style, absolutely amazing. Liberty DeVito from Billy Joel's band says John Bonham was R&B drummer in a heavy metal band, and that's absolutely true. He had so much of an R&B swing and was influenced by those players that he was the perfect hybrid, and he influenced everybody like David Grohl, Phil Collins, Neil Peart as well. Just the greatest drummer, isn't he? He's amazing. But we're going to talk about different drummers in this. It's going to be like also technique but feel as well. It's not about who's the great tech player. It's going to be like, I did this list because it's an all-rounder of what I think are the best ones. Next up, we've got Neil Peart. Now, I think Neil Peart is an amazingly, what's the word? Like a logical player. Like he wrote fantastic lyrics. He was very influenced by literature, and he also played drums like to the lyrics almost of the books. I always found that he was playing to the lyrics, but how can I put this? So he wrote the lyrics because he got inspired by books, and then he played to those lines in the book, not to the lyrics almost. And I think that's what made him such an amazing player. Like, he was brilliantly technical. He was an incredible player, very shy guy. He wanted to stay away from like fame and bits and bobs like that. And, he didn't meet fans a lot because I don't know if he didn't like it or if he was shy, but, he was very good at sort of being very analytical with the way he played, but also very smart about the way he played as well. And some of the solos he's done and the long playing things he's done is incredible. I'm gonna full disclosure, I've never been a huge fan of Rush. I never have been, but I know that what I've heard when I've listened to him play, he's an amazing player. So I had to put him on the list because I know what a great player he was. So he's not necessarily one of my favourites, and I don't necessarily listen to Rush all the time. In fact, let me know in the comments what Rush album or single should I listen to that really blew you away. I'd love to know what influenced you that really got you into Rush. Like I say, for me, they've never been one of those bands that I've got into. I've got a few vinyls back there, but I've never really played them either. But I just think he's one of those players that had to be on this because he's so technically fantastic. Up next is Moon the Loon. Keith Moon to me is one of the best of the best. He played, like he said, Pete Townsend said that when they first met him, he rolled up, he's like a little 16-year-old boy or something like that, and he got behind the drum kit and it was like a jet engine taking off, and I can imagine that's what it was like. Mooney, I think, is really underrated as a drummer because of the antics that he pulled off. I read his book, Moon the Loon, like Pete Townsend's book. Is it called Behind Blue Eyes? And he speaks about Looney, and the stories are brilliant. They're absolutely brilliant, the stories he tells you. But, and he said, Roger Daltrey said that he would always play like mad in the verses to overdo the singing and then play flat in the choruses. And when you listen to that, he does do that. And Townsend also said every drum fill was dum 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 dum, which is also true. You can hear those as well. But the way he played and the style that he had was absolutely fantastic. He was, I put in the bullet points here. He had rapid fills, he created tension release. He liked the tom-toms and crashes. Very rarely used the hi-hat, just used the ride all the time. Played forward, and he used to play in front of the beat a little bit. Double bass drums that he pioneered with Ginger Baker as well. His double bass drum work was, almost he would just stamp on things just to make a noise. But Moon was brilliant at what he did. He was always there. He's also, and there's that footage where he took like a massive amount of elephant tranquilizer or something like that, and right up until he passes out, he's still absolutely on the beat and on the rhythm. So he's clearly losing consciousness, and he was still there at the same time. It's just amazing. He was an amazing drummer. He was so good. Like I said, I'm not going to read it all out because I want you to pop on the website and absolutely read it and go through the whole thing because it took me a while to write. But he developed, Marshall stacks to make him louder. They use synthesizer power chords. He played on rock operas. A lot of the drummers in that ilk and era didn't do that. He had to play on rock operas, which no one did, and he perfectly fits into that as well. And I love Quadrophenia. I think Quadrophenia is a great album. I mean, I struggle with the Who sometimes because they're a bit like the Kinks to me, where they've got very good singles, but the albums can be hard work. But Quadrophenia is an absolutely amazing piece of work. After that, Ringo Starr, to me, probably one of the most underrated drummers that will always be. Ringo gets written off all the time, and there's that famous quote, which isn't actually a quote, where they said, who's the best drummer in the band, in the world, or something like that. And John said, Ringo's not even the best drummer in the Beatles. That's not true. John Lennon never said that. And this then becomes folklore, and people believe this absolute fucking nonsense about Ringo being a terrible drummer. Ringo is incredible. He's absolutely incredible. When the Beatles got him in, the band got much, much better. They absolutely did 100%. And they've said it before, Ringo plays for the song. He doesn't play for himself. He's not a showy drummer. He's only done one drum solo, if you like, and that was on The End on Abbey Road. The last album of their career. So he wasn't into being showy and things like that. He played for the band, he played for the songs, and he played for the backbeat and just making sure the points was there. And he also knew when not to play. So in there, I've sort of said Ringo's beat, or the broken beat, or where in my life, I've written it there, where it says, there are places I remember, boom. It wasn't just like, four to the floor and just going through to the end of the song. He was putting breaks in that song to let the lyrics breathe. And that is so, so important that he did that, because that's what makes his drumming style so special, and it makes him so amazing, and what he did as well. He had the windshield wiper playing technique, and what I mean by that is he would play across the hi-hat like this. He wouldn't play down. He would play left to right, left to right, left to right, left to right. And that's what makes him such a fantastic player, and that's where he gets that sway from. And like I was saying earlier, I wasn't a great drummer, but I watched Ringo a lot when he was playing, and I learned to play like Ringo. And Ringo used to throw his body around, and I used to do the same thing, because he would throw his body around to make it, keep himself in time and to get into the music. And I did exactly what Ringo did, and it works when you throw your, because a lot of drummers will just sit, and apart from Mooney, a lot of drummers will just sit flat and play, and the arms move, and they're playing at 300 miles an hour. But Ringo would throw his whole body into the song to show you, how much he was getting into it. And that's what makes Ringo such an amazing and special player to me. He definitely deserves to be on every rock list, because he inspired, influenced so many people, but his playing was always absolutely spot on. Tomorrow Never Knows as well, he plays an amazing bit on that. Ringo as well, like the band, were also into the sound of his drums. And I've written in the article there that he spent hours, tuning his drums, and he would put T-tails over it to get a dead flat sound. And when you look at a lot of their Let It Be footage now, you can see that there's T-tails and tape and everything on it just to get a real flat sound. And Ringo said he likes the drum sound on Abbey Road because he had these new calf skins. I think that was on Abbey Road. So he's really into the sound of his drums and how they sounded. And like, because the Beatles obviously wanted every track to sound slightly different, and he was the same with the drums. He approached it the same way as the band. A lot of drummers would have done that. Ringo's so creative that he would have done that, and that's why he's the right drummer for the Beatles. Also, like Rain and Strawberry Fields Forever, those fills in that are absolutely fantastic as well. Like Rain is a really great song. If you've never heard Rain, dig it out. It's brilliant. Strawberry Fields, his fills on that are fantastic as well. And I know he said he sat around playing chess a lot, but when he did step up to the kit, he really, really added his mark to it. It's absolutely amazing. That's why I think Ringo has to be on this list. He's brilliant. Last but not least is Ginger Baker. I mean, Ginger Baker's an incredible drummer because he's, if you meshed all these drummers together, you would get an amazing really drummer, and they're all individual in their separate ways. And this is the same for Ginger Baker. Ginger was influenced by jazz drumming, and he put jazz into rock, which is a really hard thing to do, and it made it work for him. He had the double bass drums. He was notoriously difficult to work with as well at some points, but that's what adds to his style as well. His drumming, he's almost spiky like his attitude was, and that's what I like about him as well. Obviously he was in Cream, and he played in the Graham Bond organisation as well, but his style was just so it was just jazz rock the way he did it as well. And he's obviously influenced by African music as well. Like he went to Lagos and lived there, learned the rhythms because he was into tribal sounds as well, and he's got all that sort of stuff going on, like Feta Kuti there. I think I said that right. Is it Feta Kuti? He wanted to go to Nigeria and learn how to play these rhythms, and he immersed those in Africa 70. He Band on the Run, he owned the studio that they used to record some tracks in as well. But he pioneered the double bass drum with Keith Moon. He used polyrhythms, playing different time signatures at the same time as well. Brought jazz and Afrobeats to contemporary rock. No one really had done that at this point, and he treated drums as a melodic instrument, and that's brilliant. He's a brilliant drummer. There's a fantastic film called Mr. Baker, which came out about 10 years ago, and he basically it goes through his career, and he ends up hitting the director at the end of it because he didn't want someone on camera, and he punched him, and he's just Ginger Baker right to the end. Unfortunately we've lost some of these drummers now, apart from Ringo, isn't it? I think Ringo's the only one left. That's a real shame, actually. I just realised that. John Bonham's passed away, Neil Peart, Mooney, Ringo's the only one left out of all these. Also, there's a little bit of a table there as well to tell you like highlights of why I think they were great at what they did as well, and a bit of a conclusion. So I'm going to put this link in the description, just me talking about the drummers as well. I was going to do like a great hits video, and I thought, I'll use the article because I want to get into writing a few more music bits on there and use the website a bit more. Let me know in the comments, who your favourite drummer is, what your favourite single is, and what your favourite album they played on. I'd love to know that as well. Is there any underrated drummers that you think should be on this list? Like, who do you sort of think, people never mention this person? I'd love you to, like Charlie Watts, I suppose he could have been here as well. Let me know in the comments who you think should have been on this list as well. I love drums. I used to be a drummer, so I'll always have maximum respect for drummers. I know I make jokes at the start, but drummers to me are just the best. Without the drummer, you ain't got a band. So there you go, musicians. Have that and smoke it. Anyway, if you can subscribe to all that, massively help me out, like I was saying at the start. I've got interviews, I've got deep dives, I've got reaction videos, I've got quizzes on here, I've got live streams, I've got DJ sets, I've got all sorts of stuff. So if you love music, there might not be something for you every single time, but you might subscribe and there might be something come up. You think, I'll have a look at that and find something new as well. Also, me and my friend Pete Saxer do a show called The Flip Side of Pete and Robbie, where we get an unsigned band on and we interview them and we play their videos and play unsigned bands, so you might find a new band that you've never heard of before as well, and you'll be supporting an unknown band, so you're supporting music that way as well. So if you subscribe, you'll help me out that way. Anyway, so check the website out, subscribe to the channel. I've loved talking about drums because I could talk about drums all day and drummers because it's my thing. Anyway, I'll see you on the next one. Love and peace.